Most of this movie is Superman taking an absolute beating, and I am not joking when I tell you that Lex was so overwhelming at times. I really thought that he was going to kill Superman. So I just saw Superman, and the first thing I gotta say is, wow. This is gonna be my first raw, authentic reaction to Superman. I've got a lot of good to say, and a little bit of bad to say, and there will also be spoilers. So that's your warning right now. If you're not ready for that, leave this video and go watch another video, maybe like my Why Everybody Hates Superman video, or something else on this channel that piques your interest. Now, let's just get into it. And I wanna start this off by saying, if you left the movie theater thinking anything about Superman other than, wow, Superman is awesome, then I truly do not know if there's any hope for you. If you still hate Superman after watching James Gunn Superman in 2025, all I got to say is you are like a Lex Luthor level dedicated Superman hater. And honestly, we just don't need you here. We just simply don't have time for it. It's clear that James Gunn wanted to accomplish a few different things with this movie. Priority number one, rehabilitate the mainstream opinion of Superman from the idea that he is this lame, inhuman, unkillable guy into the reality that he is in fact a very lovable, charming, human, and fun character and always has been. And this movie checks every one of those boxes. Priority number two, realign the expectations about what superhero movies can look and feel like. And of course, priority number three, launch the DCU. Gunn did a lot of things right and almost nothing wrong in this one. It was a great movie, and it's how I've always felt superhero movies are supposed to feel. Now, I've only seen his superhero movies and his Scooby-Doo movies, but it struck me as I was watching this that James Gunn is not only the best choice for superhero movies, but he's also maybe the best choice for Superman specifically. For this movie to be what it ended up being, you cannot be afraid of being a little bit silly and a little bit out of this world and just letting your imagination take you places. That's really where this movie is at its strongest, and it's something that I've talked about many times, but a lot of directors that direct these comic book movies are very ashamed about the fact that they are directing a comic book movie. The movie is plenty serious and there's a lot of seriousness in it, but it's not limiting itself, and that's what's key. Let's talk about the plot. Everything that James Gunn has been saying about this movie, about it being an immigrant story, a story about human kindness, all 100% facts. In general, the movie is very political at times, critiquing current and historical events at the same time, but in not too of a hand-fisted way, more of a basic way that even the most media illiterate person could understand, although I'm sure that they will somehow find a way to misunderstand it. The event I'm talking about, of course, is the colonization of Jarhanpur by the other country, Boravia. Superman is trying to stop an invasion, which the public seems unaware of, and it opens things up to make him look like he's the problem for peace. And of course, Lex Luthor is involved in financing this war for Boravia. With the knowledge of Superman's involvement, Luthor breaks into the Fortress of Solitude, finds the broken message of Superman's parents, and after using engineers' help to fix it, it turns out that the message Clark initially thinks is about his biological parents sending him to Earth to help humanity. It in fact turns out that the elves wanted him to rule over humanity, which turns the public against Superman, and the government gives Lex the authority to capture him, and Superman goes on a bunch of adventures, which is inspired by two of the biggest and most important comics in Superman history, which is All-Star Superman and Superman Up in the Sky. And like many of you, the MCU has conditioned me to think that when a director or creator says that this story is based on this comic book story, that it is going to be a beat-for-beat copy of that story. And I am so thankful that this was not the case. Because based on doesn't even mean a like-for-like retelling. It's actually a very general and broad term that can mean a lot of different things. Which is great because it allowed them to capture the themes of those comics without giving away the story. What they did with this movie is take the same elements of those stories, where Superman is pushed to his limits emotionally, intellectually, and physically, while showing off what makes him so great and so lovable. I really love the fact this movie never lets you forget what Superman values most, which is every single life. Superman is saving everyone in this movie and is clearly unselfishly willing to die for them. And you see the other side of this passion when Lex Luthor kills Molly, an innocent man, right in front of Superman. You see just how precious life is to Superman. And I think it's moments like that that make this movie so incredible. The action in this movie is also great. You can kind of feel the speed that everyone's moving at, the impact of every blow, and the dynamic way that Superman uses his powers is really cool and innovative. And overall, I think everyone's powers and abilities was just done really well. There was enough action in general that satisfies our need for it without overdoing it or having pointless fights. And I also love the way the action was used as a storytelling device. Going into this movie, I think it was really important to show that Superman can in fact take a beating despite how powerful and resourceful he is. That he does face challenges, and the challenges that he faces are simply him being the one guy trying to save people as his #1 priority above all else. And while he's focused on that, he's being overwhelmed by a villain. So even when he knows that Lex is setting a trap for him, he does not have another option. It doesn't show that he's dumb, it shows that he's incredibly resilient and he's selfless. It really is that simple, and it proves that just because he has plot armor like any main character, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have obstacles to overcome. A small thing that I found really cool about this movie that makes so much sense is how normal people react to metahumans and monsters in their city. Like Metropolis is being ripped apart, but they still gotta go to work in the morning and get groceries on their way home. And I think small details like that help an audience suspension of disbelief and allow us to get immersed in this world. It was very clear to me from the start of this movie that they were trying to show younger audiences that had never seen a live-action great Superman movie in their lifetime that he's just fucking sick, man. I will say, I was kind of waiting on a big FU moment though throughout this movie because Superman has had so many haters throughout the years, and I was kind of hoping for something that like Miles Morales got in Across the Spider-Verse, where it's sort of a great moment in the movie, a great moment for the character and the story, but it's also a bit of a meta commentary on the character versus the fandom. So that was one thing that I was, missing out on, I guess, but overall I think there was a ton of great moments that really speak for themselves. Because while it does have James Gunn and Superman's vibe of aw shucks sort of fun at times, it also strikes a really nice balance with the weight of what's happening and the reality of each challenging situation, as well as the seriousness of each situation that Superman finds himself in. Most of this movie is Superman taking an absolute beating, and I am not joking when I tell you that Lex was so overwhelming at times. I really thought that he was going to kill Superman. As a matter of fact, let's talk about Lex Luthor. The way he has such an insane amount of money feels very real and like an infinite source of power that Superman is very disadvantaged against. His maniacal hatred and obsession with Superman manifested in him cloning him into Bizarro and installing fight moves that he came up with by studying Supes, which Superman has no real answer for almost the entirety of the movie. Lex does a lot of cool things to try and kill Superman, I'm not gonna lie, like flooding Superman's lungs with nanites to push the air out of his lungs was top tier evil villain shit. I think with what I just said, it goes without saying, Nicholas Hoult played him so well. This version of Lex Luthor has the perfect combination of smarts, jealousy, vanity, and absolute batshit insanity that of course eventually brings him down. And he's not ambiguously good or evil, he's just a straight up piece of shit in this movie, and I love that. He was willing to do anything to kill Superman, including trap innocent people in a pocket dimension and rip the world in half. And what was so great was that no matter what Lex threw at Superman, he just kept getting back up for more. Whether it was understanding Metamorpho and tapping into his humanity, the smarts of using crypto to beat Lex and Bizarro because his obsession with Superman left him unprepared for his dog, or forcing Engineer's nanites out of his body by taking her too high in the air for her to land back down on Earth without them shielding her, or just the simple fact he never stopped fighting, no matter how dire the odds got. And David Corenswet is great in every part of this movie, from beginning to end. He is perfection. He has these cute, almost himbo-ish kind of moments that make him naturally funny without him having to utter a single joke or quip. It's really remarkable, actually. He has the charisma when he saved a person or in his intimate moments with Lois. He plays all three personalities of Superman, Clark Kent the person, and Clark Kent the reporter incredibly well. And it's hard to think of any actor that has ever balanced and so perfectly done the split identities of a superhero like David Corenswet did with Superman and Clark Kent, like maybe ever. And that is so impressive to me. Between him and James Gunn, this Superman represents all the good things about him so perfectly. The love, the compassion, the resiliency, the emotions, the hope, and most of all, the humanity. Now, I did feel like in the lead up, we were all very focused on Lex and Supes. And fair enough, but I really think we weren't talking enough about how important it is to have a great Lois Lane in this story. And oh my god, Rachael Brosnahan was exactly what you want. Everything about her, from the effort and dedication she shows to truth and justice as a reporter, to the fact that she put herself in harm's way to find and save her boyfriend from an unknown situation purely out of love for him, and his reaction of gratitude that someone was looking out for him for once. That got me teary-eyed. And not only is it important to the story, but it's really important for her character because we all know that Lois would have never sat back. Lois is supposed to be an audacious person who matches the courageousness of Superman, and I'm so happy that we're getting this version of her. Plus, her and Clark's relationship has a lot of really interesting, complex layers to it. In this movie, they're just starting to date, and they don't know how to handle it all, and there's a good amount of friction which keeps you really locked in. It's something I hope that in the coming movies they explore a lot more, because these two are so good. One thing that I would critique this movie for, though, is that it moves at a very high pace the whole time. It definitely gets a little bit better after the first 30 minutes or so, but it's still a lot to digest and not a lot of time to do it. I guess I would also say that I was hoping for a bit more emotional moments, and this movie definitely does have a few, but doesn't really try to impact you that way. What I think is obviously the most important plot with Baravia and Jahanpur feel less fleshed out and at times less important with all the other things going on and all the other stories that got their chances to be fleshed out. Even with something like Crypto being captured, didn't feel as weighty as I think it could have been. But what I will say in spite of that, I think this movie does do a really good job of establishing other characters and superheroes as just other characters. They do feel like they have their personalities and they do feel fleshed out enough where you don't need any more, and they feel very much just a part of the larger story. The MCU also did this thing with superhero movies where we feel that every single time a potential superhero or villain is about to be revealed or is guaranteed to be in a movie, that they have to be fleshed out so much more, that they have to be given so much more time, they have to be given their own series, and in reality, they're just parts of a story. They're just parts of a world and parts of a greater message that each individual story is trying to tell. Like Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, and Mr. Terrific do exactly what they need to do, but they don't bog the whole thing down. And of course, there's the Kents, who are also great, and so is the rest of the Daily Planet. However, my biggest problem with this movie is that there just wasn't enough Superman. Like, yes, he's in the majority of this movie, of course, but there's not much time spent to get to know him on a deeper level and feel his emotions and understand how he's processing all of this chaos going on around him. But as far as a Superman movie goes, I just wanted to see more of him. And I would say that this movie feels like a concept of Superman movie rather than a movie about Superman. It is sort of a consequence, though, of having to balance all three of those priorities that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Because to establish the DCU specifically, it had to be a lot more than just a movie about Superman. But maybe that's not actually the worst thing. I kind of like that in this movie we saw more of his physical fight, and in the sequel we could see more of his internal struggle that we didn't get to see here. And in a lot of ways, this movie does set the next one up to do just that. And I hope that in the next one we get a lot more Lois and Clark, because their relationship is just the best part of this whole movie. The good thing is too, I have a feeling they won't be so bound by the standard of Hollywood to make a trilogy out of these type of movies, so you can really make as many as necessary. You don't have to be constricted to a 3-part storyline. My final thoughts on this movie are, it is a great movie. It is a fun movie, one that I would definitely watch again. And it's a movie that is unashamed to be a comic book movie, and that is so important, guys, because that means that we are going to get more of that moving forward. I truly believe that that is a huge reason why this movie is so good, because it just says proudly what it is, and it's great because of it. I think they wanted to ensure everyone understood Superman better by the end of this movie than they did going in. I think they hit all the crucial details, struck all the right chords, and debunked a lot of anti-Superman propaganda along the way. And no, it wasn't a perfect movie. It might not even be my favorite superhero movie, but it was a great movie. It was a fun movie, and it was a perfect launch pad for the DCU. Oh, and of course, we have to talk about our cameo, because that leads into the next movie in the DCU. But before I get to that, since it's kind of related, that whole Track 7 discourse you guys were having, yeah, that was the biggest reach of all time, and you hate to be a hater, but I was really enjoying you guys just grasping at straws, thinking that Batman's coming, because Track 7 kind of sounds like something in the way. And I just want to give some advice, guys, like really, just enjoy Batman Part 2. It's gonna be great, and whether or not Pattinson is in this universe, or he's not, just let it be, man. Let it be. Millie Alcock's cameo at the end of this movie is, of course, a teaser for her upcoming movie, Supergirl. And while it is a very short scene, I will say, having read that book that it's based off of, she's doing a great job. This is a very good start. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is my absolute favorite comic of all time. And I would say, based on that small cameo and James Gunn's love for sci-fi and fantasy, that movie should be really, really good. And I kind of have a lot more trust now seeing her in the role a little bit. And we'll definitely be talking about that comic before the movie comes out, because let me tell you, it is a masterpiece. That future video, along with all the other great videos that I've released in the past week, like why people hate Superman and the challenges that James Gunn's DCU will be facing, are more than enough reasons to drop a like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss them. Drop your comments below and let me know what you thought of Superman. But until then, I'll see you all in the next one.